Welcome to the Intimacy Liberation Army podcast slash YouTube series where we're talking about dating and how to make your dating life better through a bunch of different self-help concepts that I've learned over the years as a 15-year dating coach. And this month, the month of January 2025, we are talking about self-awareness and how important it is to get you into your own emotional regulation, etc. Mic just keeps screwing up. I'm just going to stick it right here. There we go. Today, we're talking about the link between self-awareness and emotional intelligence. We're going to go super deep into emotional intelligence later on, but we're going to give you a little bit of primer here and a couple of things to do to keep moving forward. If you haven't seen the daily routines to increase your self-awareness, they're in the last two videos, January 3rd, January 4th, and get those daily routines started and moving into presence and self-awareness, and you're going to do a lot for your relationship, self-regulation, and dating life. But today we're talking about self-awareness and emotional intelligence. If you guys haven't heard of emotional intelligence before, you're probably living under a rock. This guy, Daniel Goleman, a long time ago, he started the research on emotional intelligence. And it's just this made-up category. Like in most self-help and psych stuff, didn't exist before, and then they decided to put a nomenclature on it and make a category out of it. And then, I don't know why my Kindle thinks that I'm talking to it. Anyway, they basically put a nomenclature on it, put a category around it, and then have it explain a whole bunch of stuff. One of those things is attachment theory. It's like that thing didn't exist before, and then somebody made it up. And then a whole bunch of research happened, and then it seems to be a very good way to understand and explain why we do the things that we do based on our childhood experiences. And until something usurps it, it's not going to go anywhere because it's a really good explanation. I explain this all the time in the workshops where guys will ask me about like evolutionary psychology, roles of men and women and masculinity and all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, like I don't know if it's true, like it's still up in the air of whether or not we evolved, like it's not like scientifically proven or whatever, but like it's a damn good framework to think through as you're explaining how societies created themselves, and we all went to tribalism, and then we got agrarian and all this stuff. Like it makes sense, so we're going to use that here until it ceases to serve us, right? So emotional intelligence, while there's a lot of people on the self-help side of the internet, they're like, oh yeah, it's not a real thing, and da-da-da. It's real enough, man. It's a good category for you to stick concepts into and understand from a framework. And so basically what it is, if you have been living under a rock, it's your ability to manage your own emotional state and understand and manage other people's emotional states. So if you are low on the EQ, you won't be able to kind of tell how you're feeling and why you're feeling the way you're feeling, and then you sort of just act on autopilot, and then you won't be able to tell how other people are feeling and why they're feeling the way they're feeling the way, so then you act kind of on autopilot against their goals, right? So the higher your level of emotional intelligence, there's a couple of tests you can take, and there's a bunch of books you can read. I like Emotional Intelligence 2.0. I forgot who wrote it. I think what's it called? I don't know where it is. I'll figure it out. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that just like basically tells you about yourself, and the core of it is that if you can understand what your feelings mean, why you behave the way you do, then you can make better decisions. So self-awareness lies at the super heart of all the emotional intelligence stuff, because you can't relate to yourself unless you know yourself. You know, well, the depth at which you know yourself is the depth you can relate to yourself. And you can't relate to other people unless you know yourself, because the relation between you and the other person is the self, right? So self-awareness is the foundation of all this stuff. And over the last 4 or 5 days, we've talked a lot about self-awareness and uh, reasons why it works in the real world. I gave some stories and anecdotes or whatever. But at the end of the day, we're linking self-awareness with overall emotional intelligence. And this is where it really gets into making your dating life better, right? Like if you know yourself better, you're able to communicate clearly, you're able to make decisions clearly, you're able to put a gap between when you get triggered and then when you act based on that trigger and make better decisions every time. You have a better ability to communicate your wants, needs, and desires. The more self-aware you are, the better you understand your wants, needs, and desires, and you can convey them effectively. And then you start to filter out the people that don't want to play ball, and you start to invite in and give a lot more attention to the people who do want to play ball, and you start to develop better relationships. You can develop better relationships all throughout the strata, but especially when you're going out and dating, like even from the app side, like if you go out and you do 3 dates a week from the apps, you can get through the sort of initial salvo of like, are you even worth my time kind of qualification. The better you understand yourself, and you're not trying to like win them over from a place of insecurity. And from the pickup side, like if you're going to go out and you intentionally try to meet people, you're going to have to be social. You can't just like target a girl in a bar and then like hope that she comes home with you. You have to be social and fun and take over the environment basically. And you have to deal with guys, you have to deal with groups of people, you have to deal with her friends. There's all these things you have to do, and the better you know yourself, the better, the more stable you are in that social environment, and you can kind of be a force in it rather than being tossed about by it. So, what's self-awareness? We've done this for the last 4 days. It's the ability to recognize, understand your emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. Right? The deeper you understand those things, the better off you are. You can be internally self-aware, where you kind of understand your own emotions and your own thoughts and your behaviors, and then you can be externally self-aware, where you understand how other people perceive you. So, like like I can be like, okay, I know what I'm talking about. I'm very confident, blah blah blah, and I can just start talking and taking over a set of people, and everybody's looking at me because I have some sort of authority, and I'm very charismatic or whatever. But sometimes that creates jealousy and envy. Sometimes that creates people feeling their egos get hurt because you're stepping on their foot because they were the leader of the group before you walked in. Sometimes a girl's really fascinated with who you are, but she is not sexually attracted to you, right? There's all these little nuances that if you're not understanding how they're perceiving you, you don't have a clear pathway on that emotional intelligence side of understanding how they're going to behave in the future as you prompt them to move forward into a deeper or more intimate relationship. So the big problem with the whole perception thing, like understanding, like I'm emotionally intelligent because I understand how people perceive me, is when you come from a people pleaser side, or you come from a guarded avoidance side, or you come from an anxious avoidant or anxious attached side, you're going to come from this place of like, okay, hyper aware of what everybody's thinking, and very often your hypervigilance of that kind of stuff, you can detect emotions off people. Everybody who calls himself an empath is one of these people. Like they are super aware of like little facial tics, little vocal tonality changes, like micro expressions, and they're constantly evaluating to see where they can fit you in the slot because they need the control of it, right? The problem with that is if you are wrong in your awareness of how other people perceive you, then you make your behaviors that don't work right. And very often an anxiously attached person, like pretty hardcore on the anxiously attached side, a people pleaser type, is going to be hyper aware of how people are responding, and they're going to try to keep mitigating their behavior so that they can make sure that they keep getting approved. That's cool. because it's obviously a survival mechanism that's been there since childhood. But very often, especially a lot of the guys who come in who are like successful, right? They make money, they have status, they whatever. They come in and they're still doing the people pleasing thing. A lot of the reasons why they have status now is because they work their balls off to get away from feeling like they don't have status, and so they just grinded their face off in order to get to the level where nobody could ever question them, right? But they come from this place of still trying to people please, right? You see these guys all the time who they're like super high end software developers, or they're like tradespeople, right? Like they're not like management, they're not like CEO types, but they're like rich. They have money, right? Or super high middle class, and so they'll come out and they'll be all decked out, and they'll have their Rolex and they'll have their everything, and they'll pull up in their Maserati or whatever, and then that's like part of their identity, right? I got a Movado, two of them actually. My dad gave them to me for graduation. And when I was in IT, I absolutely played the status game all the time. I was wearing the good clothes and the whatever. This kind of post raver days, and before I became a dating coach, I was like, I bought the Mercedes, and I tried to play golf, and I got $70 haircuts, every 2 weeks, so that I can make sure it was all a thing, and there were very particular types of people who really enjoyed the fact that I did that stuff, and there was all these little social contracts. You go out to eat, and you have this little masculine contest, and then the guy who loses pays the bill, that kind of stuff, right? And then you have this whole like little culture that's based around like acquisition of material status, and so these guys will come in and they'll have that same thing, and the problem is that their presupposition is wrong. Like in their mind, they watch the porn and they watch the the Hollywood movies or whatever, and they think, okay, I am 32 years old, I have a Maserati, I'm rich as fuck. I, got my watch and my suits and my, the fabric on my blazer is fucking super whatever, thread count or whatever. And these 21-year-old girls with yoga bodies that I really want, that are just having fun in the middle of the dance floor, they're going to be super impressed by my car. They're going to be super impressed by my watch, or the way I carry myself as a powerful guy, right? But it's not true. Right? Like the more you put that stuff out there, the more like, why is he? Why, right? There must be something off about him, and the girls will kind of intuitively feel like, why are you trying so hard, right? And so that's like a false assumption from the people pleaser side. So although emotional intelligence is super important to understand how other people perceive you, it's also not so important, because if you're wrong in that understanding, then you shoot yourself in the foot. So a lot of guys will justify their kind of people pleaser mentality. It's like, oh, I just study human emotion, and I study psychology, and I study how people act and interact, and I have a good handle on it, and so that's why I'm so adaptable. That's why I'm a snake. That's why I'm a chameleon in the environment. And it's like, yeah, it's a good rationality for rationale. It's a good rationalization for that, but in real life, you're not getting laid anymore because you're hypersensitive to how people are responding. You keep shifting, right? What tends to be more true, especially in social influence, is that the more people can kind of count on you to be a certain way, the more they trust you, right? So if you're an asshole, but you're always an asshole, then they trust they're able to kind of predict what you're going to do next, and then they don't feel unsafe or insecure around you, right? So like, even if you're, like, I had this girl, and she would very routinely, she would go to the bar about 10 p.m., be fun as fuck, super woo girl party, right? And then right about 11:30, 12, she had drank too much, about six drinks in, and then she just starts fucking attacking everybody around her, right? After about the first 3 months that she started going out, everybody just understood. Okay, that's who she is, right? And they stopped getting offended. It started being, it stopped being dumb. Like it was just like, oh, okay, yeah, she's doing that thing again. And even though the behavior was like fully antisocial, like everybody's just like, oh yeah, we come to expect it. It's fine, right? Because everybody acclimates really quickly to what they feel like they can trust. Same thing when I was super crazy in the pickup scene, and I was just trying to fuck girls every fucking night. I stopped fronting. I just started being super honest. It's like, I'm just out here, good time, not a long time. I really like connecting with humans, and sometimes they connect for a long time. Sometimes they leave fast. Sometimes first time's the worst time, and you never get the time to try it again, right? Like, it's just who I am. Like, I date a lot of people, and I don't really do the monogamy thing, and that's who I am. And people will be like, I could never do something like that, and that's not, you're just taking advantage of people. I'm like, no, I'm not really taking advantage of anybody. They know exactly what's going on. I told you before I started hitting on you. Like, if we do something later, you're in full knowledge of the fact that I am probably not going to be your boyfriend and future husband. Like, it is what it is. And everybody's like, you're kind of an asshole, and you'll grow out of that, and you'll meet the right girl, and they do all that stuff, and then they just take it for what it is, right? I'm sitting around a fire pit over at the local bar, Tipsy Goat, and some new girl will come, and I'll just start hitting on her and talking and getting all crazy and sexual escalated or whatever, and the girls will go like this and look at their friends, and they're like, that's just Duke. He talks to everybody like that. Like, if you like him, like, answer his questions or whatever. But like, oh, okay. And then I get this social proof of like the guy who's gonna hit on you if you sit down. Like, so if they can sort of predict your behavior, they trust you more. When you try to like meet them where they're at, like you're hyper vigilant on their emotions, and then you kind of like try to head it off in the past. You're oscillating, and they don't know what you're gonna do next. Right, the chameleon thing like makes you more unstable, like untrustable in the social space. Anyway, I mean, it might be a survival mechanism at home when you're fucking in an abusive relationship or something. But like when you're out at the bar or out at the restaurant or out at the happy hour or whatever, and you're just talking to groups of people, the more consistent you are, even if you're an asshole, like even if your consistency is got an edge to it, the more trustworthy you are. The more they can kind of, if somebody can feel confident that they can kind of predict how you're going to respond, they're going to feel more like you, and your rapport is going to go up. If you're sitting around trying to like from your command center try to control everything, and they do something and you realize you fucked up, so you alter the script, and then you do that again, see how they respond, and then you alter it again. They're like, he just showed me 3 different faces, like, and it's all subconscious. Like, it's not like they're thinking logically. Yeah, he's got 3 different faces. 2 would have been fine, but no, 3 is too much. No, it's just like subconsciously they're just like, I don't know about this guy. And all of that to say is emotional intelligence is super cool, and you need to learn how you come across to other people, but you need to be able to test it. Like, you need to be able to like, okay, I thought they were perceiving me this way. I thought this guy was being cool, but he's actually really envious of me, and he wants me to leave as fast as possible. Right? Like, okay. Like, and you can kind of test with the guy, or test with the girls and their friends or whatever. And I find the ways to do that just being honest. Like, hey, if you want to hang out with me a little bit later, maybe you should tell your friends that like you're going to come with me. And they'll let you, oh no, I can't leave my friends. Okay, cool. Whatever. But sometimes they're like, yeah, I should do that. And then it sort of mitigates the whole thing. Testing for that kind of stuff will move your game along super fast, because like if you thought one thing, you can't just like assume it and then not try to move things forward. You could just be wrong all night, and just end up at a house party sitting on a couch by yourself. So not that that ever happened to me, but anyway. So self-awareness, emotional intelligence, blah, blah, blah. Understanding emotional intelligence. Okay, so emotional intelligence in general, like self-awareness is part of the pillars. right? It's the first one. So the first thing about about emotional intelligence is self-awareness. Second thing is self-regulation, and we're going to get into that pretty deep this month. But your ability to catch your emotions before they make you behave a certain way and regulate it, so it's not like so bombastic. Like it's okay to, if somebody pisses you off, to be angry. It's also okay for you to communicate that anger in some type of way. But if you're just going off of a trigger and you're automatically responding and you just suck in and you stop talking to anybody when you're angry, then it doesn't help you in the social situation. If you flip out and cause a big scene, it doesn't help you in the social situation. If you cut people off just because you're mad right in the moment, whether you understood the situation or not, it still doesn't help your social. So your ability to regulate that emotion and the behavior that comes out on the other end is super important. Like I would never say like bottle it up and act one way when you feel another way. Like that kind of fucks with the whole authenticity thing. But you don't have to take your first reaction, especially if you don't know what's going on. Like if you just get all of a sudden you feel betrayed and you just want to fucking lash out at people, it's probably not a good emotional response in a group of people because you're just going to burn bridges. And some people would be like, may the bridges I've burned light my path ahead of me. Okay, great. But like, what we're trying to do here is social rapport. And I have no problems cutting people out of my life when they don't serve me, right? Or they're trying to abuse me or whatever. But I generally don't do it right in the moment. I evaluate and I think about it, and then I make choices to no longer talk to them again or tell them my boundaries so that they can make a choice, right? I don't like, somebody does something bad to me in public and I'm like, you flip out on them and now everybody feels uncomfortable. Like that's not, I'm regulated there. But there are some people who will do some things and I'll pull them aside and be like, look, man, don't ever do that to me again. Or I just won't be around because I can't tolerate that. And then they'll be like, oh, yeah, sorry, man. And then sometimes they'll do it again, and I will legitimately just cut them out of my life. Fine. And it's not like, I'm not talking to you anymore. It's just like, I'm cordial. I'm like, oh, what's up, man? And they're like, we good? No. It's fine. So, but the point is I'm regulating most of the time so I don't like flip out on people or do some weird aberrant behavior that's going to screw up my social status or my ability to make friends in that arena in the future. The third, so the first one was self-awareness, second one self-regulation, third one is motivation. We were talking a lot about cause and effect in episode 1 and 2, where if you feel like you're at effect of the environment around you, like things happen and then like you're the victim, then you can't really motivate yourself to go to battle every day, right? If you view the world, if the frame in which you view the world is like combat, right? If I go out these hoes, I gotta bring my best self, and if I get beaten, I'll lick my wounds, pick myself up tomorrow, and talk to these hoes again. It's like, okay, well, that's one way to look at it, but like if that's how you look at it all the time, it's really hard to motivate yourself to go to a losing battle. You can do that for the first 5 days, and then like the next week you're just like, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. you know. So motivation is just staying driven despite the challenges that you have, and your emotional awareness, your emotional intelligence, and your self-awareness on why you do the things you do, why you feel the way you feel, will give you a lot of more accurate data against the reality of the social situation, so that you can actually keep yourself motivated. You're like, I'm about the process, I'm about the experience, I'm about the learning lessons, I'm about doing the thing that I was trying to do tonight and seeing the results that come out of it, so I can make my social skills better. Like focusing on those things rather than just getting triggered and feeling all some type of way. It's part of the emotional intelligence experience, and you can actually level it up systematically. Fourth one, so the first one's self-awareness, second one's self-regulation, third one is motivation, fourth one, empathy. Your ability to kind of put yourself in somebody else's shoes and understand how they're feeling the way they're feeling. One of my best mentors, his name is Jeffrey Lee Allen the Ninth. He still works for Real Social Dynamics and Owen Cook's team, and he was really my first coach. Like Owen was really my first boot camp, but like my first coach, like for a long time, was Jeff. And Jeff taught me so many things about life, and he's amazing. But he used to say, "I don't give a fuck about what anybody thinks, but I'm always acutely aware of how I'm making them feel." Because there's one, when you say, "I don't give a fuck what people think," I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. Yeah, okay, cool. But like, if you don't, then they're gonna feel that, and then they're gonna assume you don't give a fuck about them either, right? And that's not gonna help your social standing or escalation or anything. Um, if you go around scaring people, if you go around making people feel disenfranchised, you go around making people feel shitty, then they're not going to want you around. They're going to avoid you. So you have to be constantly aware of how you're making people feel, and empathy is the way to do that. Putting yourself in their shoes, and you can see their micro expressions. When you say something offensive, and rather than taking your ego about it and be like, "Look, if you're offended by that, go fuck yourself," right? Like, no, no, yeah, you can apologize for making people feel a certain way, because most of the time when you say some shit that's offensive, uh, because you're trying to be fully you in the moment, is usually some loss in translation. You don't usually mean to offend everybody around you, right? And sometimes you do, and you have to make up for it, because you can make mistakes in that kind of communication. So empathy and social skills, just the tactics of building relationships and maintaining them. In a personal context, um, focusing on these 5 areas: the self-awareness, the self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. If you can recognize all the emotional triggers that are happening in you, cut them off at the pass, choose the right behavior that's going to make the other person feel the best in the air in that arena, then you can get further faster in rapport building, get further faster in trust building, get further faster in being able to influence other people. It's like, if they view you as somebody who is fun and caring and kind and a little edgy, or somebody who is willing to push you to take risks or whatever, when they view you that certain way, then you can sort of capitalize on that and drag them all along on your adventure. Then you guys can co-create a new adventure together, and something that you could have never done by yourself. You can use the company of that other person, and they can use the company of you to create a new experience and memories that'll last forever. Right? I was at this thing yesterday. It was like a New Year's party that was late, that was thrown by my buddy. I've known him probably since 2001 or something, right when they got out of high school. And uh, we were all just kind of sitting around and looking back at all the crazy ass memories we'd created together. All the girls we had gone out with, and and there were some girls in the group too that have known us for 10, 15 years as well. And they were talking about their stories or whatever. And we created this little like friend group. We don't see each other much anymore. We see each other maybe once every couple of months, because we're all like, everybody's got kids and everybody's doing their thing, career thing. But it was just, it was heartwarming to know that we had orchestrated and created this thing, and it kind of peaked around 2010 and 2013 when I first started getting into pickup. And so I was kind of like the aberrant guy of the group who was running around trying to find girls. And but we had created these memories that still hold emotional weight today, because we had chosen all together to co-create an environment or experiences or events. At certain points, I was always trying to get people to go out and do stuff, and some of these other guys were always trying to get people to come over for game night or play video games or whatever. And there was all these shenanigans around the crazy parties, and who was dating who, and all the drama that happened. Like, it was like, I couldn't have created that shit on my own. I was definitely a social leader at that point. Like, I sent a text message and 30 people show up to the club. But like, I couldn't have done any of that shit on my own. I had to co-create it with other people. And the strength of my rapport building at the time was what gave me access to be able to do all that stuff. Now, I will say that up until a couple years ago, I was super, 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 super people pleaser. Like, I was way anxiously attached. I hadn't fixed it. Like, it was a thing. But I was operating at like my highest level as a fucking chameleon people pleaser, and I fucked it up for so many years. But I mean, there's still a lot of benefits. Like, people will die, have never fixed their attachment style because it's fundamentally not broken. It's just how you are, right? Um, People will die in poverty and have never made over 40K a year. Like, I know a guy just like literally he's like 50 years old and he just never made more than poverty level money ever. It's just like, you just never chose. Man, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. Like, you could be anxiously attached your entire life and still do great things in the world, right? You can be broke your entire life and still do great things in the world. Like, it's fine. But for those of us who are super self development, self help, like trying to do something, trying to leave a legacy, trying to make a big impact, create a lot of influence, it's not fine to sit around being anxiously attached and people pleasing all the time. So that's what I'm saying. Ba, 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 ba. Yeah, empathy. We did that. Oh, practical tips to help develop self-awareness. I just did that the last 2 days. What's in here? Yeah, keep a journal, active listening, mindfulness. Yeah. Okay, so keep a journal. If you don't know what questions to ask yourself, I went over it 2 days ago on the 3rd in the 1.5 minutes to self-awareness training for your daily practice, that video. Just go in there. I did a lot of recommendations of Dr. Benjamin Hardy's books and his future self stuff. So check that video out, and I'll link Dr. Hardy's stuff in the description. And then second thing was practice active listening. Okay, we have a whole thing on active listening coming up. So for today, let's talk about this. Actually, what time is it? Nope, we'll talk about it tomorrow. And then mindfulness. I covered that crazy yesterday. So I don't know why I put that in today's thingy. But anyway, so this was a primer on how self-awareness dovetails into emotional intelligence, and it sort of widens the thing. After about, I think, day 10 of this sort of courseware thing that I'm doing, we're going to go into deep, dark tactical. Like, we're not going to stay on this like big, heady, like, what is self-awareness? What is emotional intelligence? What is motivation? Like, I just needed to get some of this stuff out of the way. And when the AI looks at this later, it can distill it all down in the condensed course that I'm making at the end of the month that goes along with the book. So, yeah. Emotional intelligence links self-awareness. That's what we're talking about today. The practical tips, I think I'm going to leave off for tomorrow. We're going to go into kind of super like the 10 ways to deal with shit tomorrow. So, yeah. Thanks for listening, and if you're following the self-awareness thing but you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe, hit the button, and you will get notified when all the new videos come up. Click the little bell, and if you don't want to click the bell and you don't want to get notified, please trip on my content at some point later when you want to do this stuff. In the meantime, between now and when the book comes out, feel free to hit me up in the comments or send me a DM on Instagram or Snapchat or whatever. I'm Duke Delayed on all platforms. So if you have questions or whatever, hit me up. And if you don't, then I will see you tomorrow. And until then, stay awesome.